Welcome back, everybody, as Tim and I continue our journey through the MCU films. Last time we left off on Ant-Man. No, last time we left off on Captain America Winter Soldier. Today we will leave off on Ant-Man and we will close out phase 2. I said Ant-Man on accident, Tim, because I already have my scores up. And here's on our nice little spreadsheet that we're keeping for those at home. We're also going to have a contribution from some folks from Facebook today when we get to a certain section of this that I thought might be fun. But for starters, Tim, this was finally a better group of 3, I think.
Definitely on the up and up.
I felt good. I didn't end this one saying, man, I really am not looking forward to talking about this.
Yeah. First group of movies where it didn't feel like a chore.
I totally agree. And I don't know if people are following us on our No Coast Defenders podcast. We're currently whipping through Batman movies, and it feels like much more than just a chore, to the point where I'm not happy about it. After what I watched last night. But we're here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. And something I want to mention that had been in my head the whole time was, I don't remember which in the million talks we've had, but we talked about music in the Marvel movies. Was that on here or was that in the podcast?
I can't remember.
Wherever it was, somebody critiqued Marvel for not having good music in their movies, and I think this just goes to show that.
It was here. We were talking about Iron Man, because Iron Man's Iron Man's always the example they use.
Yes, well, they need to sit their ass down and listen to the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack on repeat at least 100 times, because it's absolutely incredible. But I don't want to spoil too much of my take on it, because I do want to start with you and your take on this film from James Gunn that introduced everybody to a group of characters that's really been more unknown in the comic book universe than anything else we had seen up to this point. So, Tim, what are your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy?
So going into this, I loved the movie right out of the gate. Not this viewing, but the first time I saw it. And when it came time to do our first set of reviews for that other project, it just wore on me. And that was one movie where, as much as I liked it, it still felt like a chore, because it didn't stand up to other movies in the MCU, including its successor. But this time around, I really dug it. And I found a cool way to, not cool, but I found a more logical way to spin the negatives that I had on it. So one of my biggest critiques going into this rewatch was Ronan is just way too goddamn serious. Mm-hmm. I love Lee Pace. I love him in The Hobbit and all of his other projects that he does. He's a fantastic actor, but they just made him way too dark and almost to the point where he's cheesy. But this time around, I found that there's some charm in that. Especially when it came time for him to come to nowhere after Drax sent him that signal, and in the final battle, it just made the other characters funnier by comparison. Mm-hmm. And that aspect definitely got a lot better for me. And the other biggest thing that I took away from this was, I didn't think, again, comparing it to Guardians 2, it wasn't as emotionally investing. Mm-hmm. Because Guardians 2, I guess, is just more in your face about his relationship with not only Ego, but mainly his mom. Mm-hmm. But you could definitely feel it in this movie, especially in that end scene where he opens up the gift that she gave him, and hearing her voiceover calling him his little Star-Lord, or her little Star-Lord, and finally finding out the true, or I'm getting chills just talking about it. Just finding out the true origin of his nickname was just so engrossing and just so good. But Otherwise, it's I just found myself laughing nonstop. The part that immediately comes to mind is when they were Rocket was planning the jailbreak,
Mhm.
and he asked um, Peter to go get that fake leg from that one inmate, and while he's on top of Groot's shoulder, just firing away at God know the all the robot guards and
Yep.
whatnot, it just hard cuts to Peter just standing there nonchalantly, and the prisoner just is being like, "You want what?" And then just moments like that just made this just chef's
Yeah.
awkward chef's kiss.
It was a very James Gunn film.
It was, yeah, yeah,
You know, you mentioned the part about his mom, and every single time I watch this, no matter how many times, I always forget about that beginning scene with his mom because in my head it just
yeah,
starts with him there to get the orb. You know, like that's that in my head it starts with that and
yeah,
around stuff. I always forget about that one part. No matter, I think I've seen it probably 30 times, and still it's always a surprise me for
yeah.
some reason when it starts there. I'm like, oh yeah, what cut is this? So we brought up the music. How much do you think the music has to do with carrying the story?
Not nearly as far as the second one.
Hmm.
Well, I still, yeah, it just didn't do anything really for me
Hmm.
in this first movie because it doesn't really drive the plot at all.
Yep.
Which
I'm using this
in a
as an
way,
Easter egg for when we get to the second one.
yeah, I'm just in this case, I'm kind of glad because you don't want that distraction from um, like how much work you have to do to even set up
Right.
the Guardians, set up each individual personality, and then still have time to show them interacting and show um, that character building of them working as a team, becoming a family, which was probably uh, which is probably uh, just as important or not just as what am I trying to say? That can be just as much of a hurdle as Ronan was.
Yeah. So if you had to throw a score at this film, what's the Tim stamp on it?
Uh Solid 8.
8.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. I forgot how amazing adult Groot was.
Hmm.
I'm sick of seeing baby Groot, and I'm glad by the time volume 3 comes around, he'll be back to an adult. And I also love the John C. Riley cameo. Well, it's
Yeah.
not really a cameo, but um the small role. The only disappointing thing is just no finding out and then just having it stick in my brain that Glenn Close was just in the movie just for a paycheck.
Yeah, and I thought about that while watching during my watch, but at the same time, I thought she delivered a decent performance for the few lines
She
she
did.
had. Uh,
Yeah.
I think the casting overall, she's a character I would have liked to see beyond that,
Yeah.
especially with the gravity of who she is. The John C. Riley casting was perfect, and his banter with Chris
Yeah.
Pratt, I mean, that was just great. It felt like Chris Pratt was almost born for this role. I thought
Mhm.
him as Andy on Parks and Rec, oh, cool. And then here he
Yeah.
is, just comedic charm. I never would have seen him doing action stuff, but he did, and he did it well. I honestly, throughout all the journeys where the Guardians have been involved, I've been the most interested in Rocket's development.
Mhm.
And I actually read, I think it was last year, where James Gunn said that his Guardians films were actually based on the evolution of Rocket as opposed to all the other characters.
Oh,
Yeah, we have
really?
Star Lord up in front, so it's cool that I was able to see that. Not that that's what it was about, but that's what I was
Mhm.
most connected to because that was the intent, I guess.
Yeah.
Really enjoy the film. I thought that Ronan was a good balance to the other characters. I think if they got any more slapstick or comedy in there, it probably would have ruined the movie for me
Yeah.
at any angle, whether it's him or any other character. It just wouldn't have done it for me. I think the intro to Gamora was done perfectly. We got
Oh,
just
yeah.
the backstory without needing all of it because
Yeah.
of how important she becomes to this whole thing. I think that we got just enough. Thanos was finally teased in a more appropriate way, I think.
I love that he actually got a speaking role instead of
Yeah.
just, another mid or end credit scene. And that was a great way to finally introduce him.
And it was, the ominous stuff just I had weighed on me up to that point, so I was glad we finally got something
Mhm.
more. I love the stuff with the collector. I just
I know. I was gonna say Benicio del Toro killed it, and I wish we had seen more of him,
Mhm.
even going into Infinity War.
Yeah. And we probably should have. And I mean, we might get Adam Warlock out of there, so who knows what's going to happen, and
Yeah, right.
we're going to see all different time variances, everything at this point. So who knows what we're going to get?
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoy this film, and the only reason why I asked about the music is because I'm going to talk a lot about the music when we get to the sequel, and so I just kind of want to throw it out there now. I thoroughly enjoy the soundtrack. It was the soundtrack for my daughter's fourth, fifth, and sixth birthday party,
Uh,
just because
yeah.
it's so good, and you could just put it
Yeah.
on and you can listen to it. It brought me back to a lot of tracks. It really doesn't drive the movie, but it's a nice companion to the movie, even
Right.
to the packaging of like the CD when they put it out. The throwback. It shows you what era you're in, which
Mhm.
I think that was important because that helps us figure out where we are with the Guardians based on the music that's being played too. And I think that's a nice touch,
Yeah.
and I love the thought that went into that. I think the fight scenes are fun. They're finally not.
Yeah.
It's not about the hand-to-hand combat as much as it is like I'm just going to shoot the shit out of this place, like what you mentioned, Rocket. And
You're right. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is a fun group of characters that not a lot of people knew about. I actually read the Guardians comics when I was younger, and I remember getting this line up here in the movie. I'm like, that's not the Guardians, but I'm
Yeah.
almost glad they did it this way because it made the second one that much better when they introduced the people who were, like Sly Stallone and all that. I think I just there's not a lot that I don't enjoy about this movie. It actually gets a 9 from me.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
nice.
whether it's treated as a comic book movie or a regular movie, it's one that I could literally watch every day and be content with and find something new
Yeah.
in. I think the acting quality is some of the best we've seen in the Marvel films, actually. And everybody had a role to play and they did it very well, but they also
Mhm.
complemented each other well. If you notice, the only actors I've really said that about so far are Anthony Mackie and whoever he's next to. So
Yeah.
it's been few and far between, in a lot of these. So this was just a great team up and great direction, great writing. I know that there's a lot of rumor mill shit going around right now about Dave Bautista
Mhm.
saying, "No, I'm not going to play Drax," but everybody's leaving out the fact that he just mentioned his age and how it wouldn't work for his body anymore.
Yeah.
Not that he's
Right.
done with the franchise. So uh, I would like to encourage people to get rid of those distractions because I think
Yeah.
the third one is going to be a masterpiece. And I think the Christmas special is just going to be something to laugh at. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it can be
As a huge, if anyone who knows me, I love me some Spider-Man, but my huge second stand is Star-Lord. Star-Lord is by far one of my favorite heroes of all time. And just seeing him on Morag, that escape where he's jumping the crevice and getting that slow-mo with the jacket open and his helmet, I just I just needed a moment afterwards. It was everything I wanted and more. And James Gunn and Chris Pratt delivered on that.
Well, it's like it was taken from the pages of a comic book. I mean, when you
Yeah,
just look at that visual,
exactly.
it's so good.
Yeah,
They did so much of the visuals in this film that just to every tiny little detail to show that we're in space, we're in a different environment.
hmm
None of this is normal. I just even everything in the jail, the characters in the jail. I mean, Jesus, it's
yeah,
just, no stone was left unturned. It's
yeah,
almost a perfect film for me. There's just certain elements of the story I didn't enjoy, but I get that they needed to be done to fit into the
mm,
MCU and where they were going.
right. Mhm.
But if this movie had to stand alone, I would have been fine with just this movie on its own, one and done.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect for me.
So, real quick, I know James Gunn is pretty set on this third one being his last. Do
Mhm.
you think we could see a resurgence with a new team?
I hope not. I
Yeah.
hope that I know oftentimes in comic books and in these movies, people don't stay dead or they don't stay done. And
Mhm.
I hope in this sense they are. Maybe we keep some characters around, but we don't necessarily need the Guardians. I
Right.
mean, we can also go the direction which we are going of as Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth has said he wants to play Thor as long as they'll let him. So we could have that sort of direction
Yeah,
too. I
I'd
really
love to.
don't know.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
I love to see Peter Quill. Once the X-Men get introduced, I'd love to see Peter Quill get on Earth and have his relationship with Kitty Pryde.
Yeah, no, that'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
I just they space these projects out so far too that you got to kind of look at how long can these actors play these characters, which is what Dave
right.
Bautista was talking
Yeah,
about. I mean, look at how far between Guardians 3 is from the first Guardians and the second Guardians. So
yeah,
we've only got so much time. How long do we have before Vin Diesel develops a smoker's cough? We got a lot of variables here. I just
yes,
I don't know. I don't know that it'll go beyond Gunn. I think some of the characters will, but as a team, I don't think so. And I would be ashamed if
yeah,
they did, because that was really his vision. That was his
mhm,
baby. He loved those
yeah,
comics. It showed. It showed that he did his reading. Yondu, the way Yondu's portrayed is just so
yeah.
great.
Michael Rooker was
Yeah,
couldn't have been better.
perfect casting. But even down to like Kraglin, I mean, the casting on this was
Yeah,
just top notch. And James Gunn is a control freak, and everybody on his set says that. So from the smallest actor on there to the smallest line to the smallest visual, he's going to have a say in that, which is why I don't think Guardians without him should happen.
yeah,
I know that we almost had that when he was kind of
yeah,
excommunicated for a
right.
little, and I was pretty bummed about that, and I'm happy to have him back. But I think that this franchise kind of lives and dies with James Gunn, to be honest.
Yeah.
The only person that I would trust it to is Taika, because he can do no wrong.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And that's why I mentioned, with the Asgardians of the Galaxy, that would kind of make sense if they just had Taika Waititi take it over, and that would be incredible too.
yeah.
So actually, I might open my mind a little bit to this if that's a possibility.
Just don't get your hopes up. They know what
I
they're
never
doing.
do with them.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. I criticize them for it, and then I have to admit that I'm wrong every single time. So I'm okay. So Guardians got an average score 8.5 from us. I think that's the closest we've gotten, outside of Winter Soldier. And then we move on to Age of Ultron, and I think we have opinions on this one.
Yeah, I want you to go first.
I hate it. It's it all just feels so forced to me. Spader's voice does not match how Ultron looks at all. I think the voice is perfect for the character, but I don't think the CGI lives up to the voice. Let's be honest, every time I watch it, the plot makes less and less sense to me. It was just an excuse to get the Avengers together. It really was. And it's very weak. I don't like the writing in it, for any of the characters. I actually don't think any of these characters were developed further. We talked in our previous sessions about character development, how we've watched them grow, and
Right.
The chemistry, and it was just out the window in this film for me. They threw the Avengers together, basically, and that's all I took away from it. There are very few redeeming qualities from the movie, even for me. On this, I mean, I think Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, they have some good banter back and forth.
Oh yeah.
Scarlett Johansson's just her fighting skills, her physical skills are top notch in anything she does. So I always enjoy that, and I think that those who choreograph those scenes for her and her stunt double, it's incredible every time.
Yeah,
but
right.
Outside of that, I just think the story was trash, the writing was trash, and I don't want to sit here for 20 minutes to talk about how trash I think it was. But God damn it, I remember being so excited to see it in the theaters too, and I remember it's one of those where I walked out excited because the people I saw it with, then I saw it alone, and like, this movie's trash. So for me, it gets a 6, just a quick 6. I don't harp on it. But I know
still
people
above
absolutely
average.
This film. What's that?
It's still above average.
It is, and I had to do it based on my low rankings of some of those other films.
Yeah.
So I know some people absolutely love this film. Some people think it's one of the best ones. It just doesn't do it for me.
Okay. All right. I respect that. We have to totally disagree with you.
And
I'm not saying it's the best by any stretch, but I think I just have more redeeming qualities about it. So starting off, Ultron's look has always been the biggest gripe for me. I mentioned it to you a couple times. I hate his face. His face is too humanoid. And I wish they would have just stuck with his classic. I wish I could show a picture. His classic like jack-o'-lantern face, um, with like, you know, s- one set of eyes, or I think even in like Marvel versus Capcom, he has like three sets of eyes, and just that like jack-o'-lantern shaped grin. And I would have been kind of like how his minions looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was talking to Vision at the end. That's how I wish he was. With a slender build, I feel like his build was too bulky. Um, even before he upgraded himself by killing himself. But I thought all the fight scenes were very, very solid. Even though the CGI work was a little shoddy, especially I could see it in Thor when he was fighting in the beginning. Um, just the fact that uh, they were able to compose a one shot action scene, pretty much covering a good chunk of all the Avengers. Um, I think we were just missing Iron Man and maybe one other person. I was really impressed. I wish there was more of that, and the banter too was just fantastic, um, throughout the whole movie. And I think they did a good job of taking that banter and um, slowly starting to build up the the moral split in the team, which kind of goes under the radar a little bit, when it comes to them fighting over what, in the scene where Vision comes to life thanks
Mhm.
to Thor. Um, the twins, I love the twins. Uh, they were in the movie just enough. I realized I loved Elizabeth Olsen was creepy as hell, and I loved it,
Mhm.
especially that intro. That, oh my god! Speaking of chills, I'm getting chills again. There's chills all around in this set. Um, when she is behind Tony and she just she stops Pietro from getting to him, and she just smiles so creepily while he gets the Iron Man hand and gets the grabs the scepter, and then bam, main titles. I love it so much.
Mhm.
I yeah, it was just, oh my god, it was so good. And you can't beat the party scene. The party scene is uh like quintessential um non-action Marvel,
Mhm.
or I'm sorry, MCU. And there really isn't much else besides, yeah, the plot's a little convoluted. It took me a couple tries to even figure out what was going on, and I feel like to an extent they did get a little too philosophical with stuff, or tried to make the plot too philosophical.
I mean, we talked about this metamorphosis of Tony and how he's now using his mind over his brawn. And then we get
Yeah.
this film, and all of a sudden he's a big dum dum. So it just,
Yeah.
that's the best way I could put it. And I think that, when we talk about the character development, to me, that just completely stunted that character's growth in that aspect that they did so well in Iron Man 3. And that bothered me, I think, to the point where it just ruined the movie for me. And I
Yeah.
think, to their credit, it may be because you and I are watching these movies so close together right now that I was still
Right.
riding on that high, and then turning this on and being like, oh, okay, so he doesn't know shit. He can't stop his own stuff, because
Yeah.
it's always been about his weapons, you know, being bigger than he is, and it has consequences, but it's never been to the point where he doesn't have an idea to stop it, and he's
Right.
powerless
Yeah.
against it. So that's the part that really irked me there. I do like the stuff with Wanda, and I think it's well done. I just don't think that they wrote her well enough. I think she acted very well.
Yeah.
I think that she could have been written a bit differently, and I'm glad that we got some redemption for her down the road in terms of how they wrote
Right.
her.
Yeah.
This is weird because I've, as of late, I'm not huge on the end credit scenes, but the end credit scene of this movie is my favorite part of the movie.
Oh
Which
yeah.
that's yeah, it just was. It gave me some excitement, but it also was well shot. It showed a direction that we're moving in. Uh, this whole movie just kind of, it didn't have a lot of direction for me, I think, is what
Yeah.
got me there. And we are watching so many of these a week and so close, and so I think it has to
Yeah.
be it has to feel purposeful for me, I guess, for this time that's committed to it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I love it that you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, going back to the banter, the little conversation with Thor talking to Vision about the weight of Mjolnir. That was great.
Oh, yeah, that was
Just
cool.
just all around, and all the fight scenes felt unique because you got the main intro with Strucker, you got Hulk versus Hulkbuster, you got the scenes with Claw in the salvage yard, and then the highway scene and the final battle, which there is a lot of fighting in this movie, and the fight after the party, and they were just really, they felt nicely spaced out, and I enjoyed this movie. So, at the risk of rambling and uh, acting like a merry-go-round, I'm going to finalize this by giving my score, and that score is an 8.5. Let's do 8.5.
Why do you gotta go with these decimals on me? Always making me do the math. You know I can't do math, guy. So,
So,
yes, we have a visitor. One thing I will say though is Vision picking up the hammer. That was pretty awesome because he does it
yeah.
so nonchalantly, and
Oh yeah.
that's always my one takeaway. Is just I love this moment. And this was us to Ant-Man, and I don't know if you want to start on this one or you want me to.
No, I'll go. No pun intended. I liked how this was on a smaller scale. It just felt.
You've been thinking about that all week.
Yeah. I can't hide it. It was nicely contained because there wasn't really much. There wasn't really too many settings. You had Scott's places between him and Cassie's house. You had Hope and Hank's house, and then Hank, Pym, his lab, and it was just a really nice break from the kind of blockbuster action.
Yes.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the movie. I was finishing it up right before, as I was making dinner, right before this. I didn't quite get to finish, but I've seen enough times to know that I love Darren Cross as the villain.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the first one to admit that he is an incredibly generic villain, and his motives and also his dialogue was very generic as well.
Yeah.
But once he gets in that yellow jacket suit, his badassery gets shot up. Excuse me. Especially when he's in the room, when he's in Cassie's house with Cassie, and he just goes, do I look like a monster? And just the way he delivers that line with the echo of the helmet, just a third set of chills. And yeah, and it was, talk about unique fight scenes. You couldn't watch this movie and not expect it to be unique in its fight choreography. It was just so well done and just the right amount of humor from really all around, from Hope to Hank to the three amigos there with Luis. And
I wish Michael Pena was in every single movie, and not just the MCU, like every single movie ever.
Yeah, he needs to do a recap.
He really does.
Going into this fourth phase of movies. But yeah, it was not really much to say that I didn't like. Come to think of it, there's not really anything I don't like, I guess, is the main point of this.
You mentioned the yellow jacket there. That helicopter scene too is just
so
well.
With the iPod.
Yes, so good.
Yeah, and I always cringe at his death scene because I can't imagine how incredibly painful it's got to be. Having your arm shrunk down and then your body just kind of collapsing in on itself. And
But they finally got the CGI right, where it
yeah,
looked
they
really
did.
cool. It was,
Yeah, it did.
you talk about being a small scale movie, but it was one of the first times where they just got everything right visually. And I
Yeah,
think it's really important to note. That's a really testament to them because they basically gave us our first caper, of an
yeah,
MCU. And then they gave us some of our best CGI too somehow.
yeah. So this is definitely a movie that you can compare to Winter Soldier,
Hmm.
if that's ever been done before, um, because it takes the superhero genre and flips on its head by adding in that subgenre, which kind of puts the superhero aspect at out of the forefront.
Right.
And I love that. I wish they would do that more,
And
which
they
they
did.
kind of have, with like WandaVision and stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, I love it.
And they did it with I don't want to say lesser characters. In the comics, he was big for a while, but in modern day comics, I mean, Ant-Man hasn't been big for a long
Right.
time. It wasn't one of those things where I think there are a lot of people like, as we got each movie, like, now give me an Ant-Man. But they
Yeah.
did it, and shit, it was awesome.
Well, I hope he hasn't been big. He wouldn't have much of a story then.
Oh, the man is rolling tonight.
Yeah. But yeah, all I'm gonna say is big things definitely come in small packages. And I'm gonna go ahead and give this movie a solid 9. Nice and even for you.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to come out right now and say that was also my score. So
Yeah.
we are
Oh, cool.
actually in agreement on that one. Um, I love that this movie was fun. We finally
Yeah.
had some fun with these characters. There were moments of humor, moments of good times throughout the MCU films, but it got to the point where they just took themselves so damn seriously in this build up to Thanos. And
Yeah.
Jesus, like, have a little fun. It is comic
Right.
book movies, Like, don't just
Yeah.
give us some fun banter. Like, these characters are fun. They go on wild journeys. Give us a giant flying ant. Like, thank you.
Right. Yeah.
It's what we needed at that time because everything was in such peril. We ended this phase on a fun note as opposed to this like
Right.
impending doom. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that Paul Rudd was perfect for this, but Paul Rudd also wrote part of this movie.
Did he
And
really?
yeah, and so
That's
like that
all.
dialogue that seemed ad lib, it's because it was his own words,
Yeah.
and I think that's why it works so well. Luis is just such a great character in this
Yeah.
film. We've had Happy Hogan in the realm of like a fun
Mhm.
partner, and now we have him, and I can't say enough about how much I love that character. This movie also has my favorite fight scene in the MCU,
Yeah.
and that's that scene that starts in Cassie's bedroom there, just with what they do with the giant train coming out of the house and the
Mhm.
giant ants
Yeah.
scurrying around. And it's not your traditional fight scene. It was based more on the scenery than it was the actual fighting.
Yeah.
And I just love the visuals of this. It's so fun. I actually sit on the edge of my seat every time I watch it just because I just love how it pops. It just looks so
Yeah.
cool, whether
Yeah.
it's in the theater on my TV.
And just the fact that they engross you so much in their level that you see that engine coming towards Darren, and then it just backs away from it, and then okay, and
But and it backs away and like you have a little train falling over, like do
right,
like
yeah,
it's just comedic enough where it's not cheesy.
yeah, right,
It's almost like if you gave an 8-year-old a camera and said go wild, but then you actually had
yeah,
like a $1 million software program for them to go
right,
wild with
yeah,
after. I absolutely adore this scene. I think it's so underrated. I think the movie itself is underrated.
mhm,
But it's funny because when you bring up the movie, so few people have anything negative to say about it. But um, that scene also prompted me to reach out to some folks. We have a lot of folks that we know in the
sure,
comic, and I want to know their favorite fight scenes. Maybe it's something that we've missed, we haven't talked about yet, or maybe it's something we have to look forward to. And
yeah,
so I just want to run down a few if you don't mind, Tim.
no, not at all. Let's do it.
Cody White gave us Winter Soldier versus Cap, which he is America's ass, so I'm not surprised about
Oh
that.
yeah, and
He
that
also,
knife work
yeah, yeah.
by
He also,
Sebastian Stan too. It wasn't even CGI. It was all Sebastian.
oh, that was all him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And you
Seriously.
also gave us the elevator scene.
Classic.
Casey Kidd gave us Iron Man, Cap, Winter Soldier fight at the end of Civil War, which, yes, that was absolutely excellent. Casey, great pick right there. That was top notch.
Talk about a fluid fight scene. I just wish it lasted a little bit longer than just what they show in the trailers.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, there was couldn't be better. Top notch.
Gary B, the casual comic guy, gave us Cap and Bucky versus Iron Man. And if you have a chance, check out Gary B, the casual comic guy's YouTube page, which we've talked about in many things before, but it's just a lot of fun for comic book fans. So give it a look. Yeah. Michael Thomas, he said it was a tough decision, but he gave us Cap picking up Thor's hammer in the Thanos battle. I think for a lot of people that was number one, Chet from Rhinos. Did you see his list for us, Tim?
Oh God.
He made me do some homework on this one. So we got Happy Hogan and Natasha versus the bad guys in Iron Man 2.
That one was okay. I wasn't too crazy about it because it didn't really look impactful. I think the most impactful part of that was when Happy finally took down that guy.
Yeah, and I think that made the whole scene. Hulk versus the three-headed dog on Bifrost, which I think you'd probably roll with that one.
Yes, but it wasn't three-headed. It was just a single-headed wolf. But I think we're splitting hairs here.
That
was great.
Guardians, he gave us the pod fight, and he said Star Wars can only hope. I agree. Thor versus Hulk and Ragnarok. What's that?
The pod fight. Are we talking?
I think the jailbreak there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Thor versus Hulk and Ragnarok. We have T'Challa versus Cap and Bucky. Absolutely. And then he gave us Sam versus John versus Bucky in Captain America Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Such a great fight.
Yes.
And then he gives one that's not necessarily MCU, the Daredevil hallway fight scene. But I'm going to be honest, if we're just talking Marvel fight scenes, that's hands down the best fight scene we've had.
I disagree.
What would you say?
I don't know. I just didn't think it was that impressive of a fight. It was cool that they did it in one take. But it just doesn't really do anything for me. It's just a fight in the hallway.
Work. Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah.
Jeanette, and you better agree with these because you happen to share residence. Jeanette Hulk whipping Loki around in the Avengers and the jailbreak scene in Guardians.
All right, first of all, that's not a fight. That's not a fight.
You're about to have one.
But that was a funny moment, nonetheless.
And Joseph Dilcox gave us the Daredevil hallway fight scene. So he said not technically Marvel or MCU, but 2 nods for that, Tim. I think you got some detractors. Carter Jackson, he gave us Cap William O'Hilner. He said, I know it's a candy-ass answer given all the great stuff we've been given by the MCU, but it still gives me chills. Those are the moments.
Yeah, if it gives you chills, throw it out there. That's what we're here for.
Our guy Jovi Eats Pizza gave us Thor vs. Hulk in the Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Marshall, he said the greatest MCU fight has to be getting through Thor the Dark World, which quite spot on. And then his serious take was Killmonger versus T'Challa at Warrior Falls. Sherry Nutter Timothy gave us Bucky, Sam, and John, which such a great fight. And then also Thor vs. Hulk. Mel Bynum gave us Hulk and Loki Puny God. So she was with Jeanette, Tim. So just something to think about. And JJ James gave us Ant-Man versus Falcon because it was funny.
Yes.
And
thank you.
I'm on board with that.
Oh, that was fantastic.
And he also said Spider-Man whooping Bucky and Falcon in Civil War. And then when Thor lands in Wakanda with Groot and Rocket in the Infinity War final battle.
Everybody's got a gimmick.
Vernon gave us one out of left field. He said Deadpool Colossus versus Juggernaut. I can't wait till we do have those characters in the MCU, but
that was good, but I was so disappointed with it was very Deadpool the way that ended, but I thought it would have been a little bit more exciting than that.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, for those that don't know or don't care about spoilers, Negasonic Teenage Warhead and who was it? Kimiko?
Oh, I'm dry. I can't even remember at this point.
Oh yeah, yeah. Kimiko and Colossus. They end up pulling Juggernaut's pants down
Oh, yeah.
and shoving an electrical wire up his ass.
Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed that scene a lot more than I remember now. Paul Brenner gave us the entire Battle of New York at the end of the first Avengers,
Yeah.
and he said maybe it was just the fact that it was so fresh and groundbreaking, but seeing all the
Yeah.
Avengers work together and sharing banner was a lot of fun. And I mean, I
I'll
do
agree.
recall it at that point that was kind of a lot of people's introduction to this crew, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then also Vision versus Vision at the end of WandaVision there.
Oh,
That was
yes.
such an iconic scene. So thank you
But-
everybody for your input.
But with that, I have to say it was both sections, because the fight scene in the air where they were phasing through each other,
Oh yeah.
and then just like, what? Oh my god, I can't. It was the buildup was worth what we got.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed, reading all these comments. And as soon as I think I posted this at like 11 o'clock at night when I was finishing up Ant-Man, and I woke up to all these replies, and then you tagged people and got them in. So I think it'd be cool if each week we just kind of do an Ask the Audience question. I think it'd be fun.
Please, let's do it.
This is a lot of fun. And I know there are at least like 3 people who watch our full episode, so I'm cool with that.
That's awesome.
But I think
Thank
it'd
you
be
to
fun.
those people.
Yeah. And, it's nice to end one of these segments on a high note for once. And
Yeah.
moving into our next segment, we have Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I already texted you my feelings earlier. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to share them here, but I'm hoping to have a different perspective after the rewatches this week. So, Tim, my friend, we made it through another 3.
Huzzah! We did.
And my thoughts are, because I think we're lining up to end either a week before or the week that we get Black Widow.
That's
so if
great.
it's the week before, I'm thinking that we do MCU shows being WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and kind
And
of
Loki.
our takeaways with that. And we get Loki, is it next week that it starts or the week after?
June 9th.
Oh, it's June now?
Yep.
Oh man, why did I have May in my kit? Just wishful thinking, I guess. So.
Yeah. We got the Bad Batch premiering now.
Yeah,
So
right.
Loki will be on Wednesdays on June 9th.
That's right.
I
So
believe there's 6 episodes of that as well.
yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that. And we'll be talking about that on the No Coast Defenders podcast too, for sure. I'm looking forward to where this journey is going because we had a lot of character development. We finally get some closure on a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of big moments to talk about. And we're getting into movies that are a bit fresher in people's minds. Plus, Black Panther's coming up. So naturally, I'm excited. So we continue our journey in it, my friend.
Yeah. I can't wait to have different differentiating opinions and the same opinions. And I just want to continue this with my friend and just enjoy some nerd shit.
And anybody tuning in, please leave comments on the YouTube channel here because we want you to argue with us. We want you to talk
Seriously.
shit. It's all fun. So please do it. I know I get messages after you watch this. Don't message me. Share it on here. Let the public see it, man. And let's have fun with this. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And
agree with us. Roast the hell out of us.
Yeah.
We don't care. We just want to hear from you.
Yeah. Nobody ever agrees with anything I say. So I'm all for it. Tim, my friend, it was good to see you.
Yes, sir.
I'm tugging at your beard from afar.
Just for you.
Until we meet again, my friend.
Yes, sir.